The best weapon you can have in the Prohibition War is your mind. Fill your head with the knowledge you need by checking out this latest entry in the Russ Belville Show's Reformer's Reader.
Welcome back, everyone. Half past the hour, and today in Reformer's Reader, we're taking a look at a book entitled Hard Chance, Tree Farming in Troubled Times. And joining us to discuss the book is the author from the great state of Maine. We have Peter Pfeiffer on the phone. Peter, welcome to the show.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. How's our connection?
Okay. I hear my own voice.
Oh, you're getting a little bit of echo there?
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can fix that. Peter, welcome to the show. I was wondering if you could tell our listeners just a little bit about this book, Hard Chance, Tree Farming in Troubled Times.
Well, it's kind of a laundry basket of ideas and experiences I've had over the past few decades living here in Maine. I grew up in Maine, and after traveling the world, I moved back. It started to look pretty good in the early 70s when America was in such turmoil. And living in northern Maine, about the only job available was cutting wood, working in the forest. So that's what I did. And this book is an attempt to explain both how to work in the woods and why someone would want to take on such a job.
You know, and I have to be clear for our listeners out there, since we are on 420 radio, when we're talking about tree farming here, we mean real trees, like timber, right?
Yes, real trees, yeah. Yeah, they grow in the woods, yeah.
Okay. And according to the information that I have here on your bio, you're from the Vietnam War generation, and of course, living in Maine, I imagine that marijuana does impact this story a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly impacted my life. I found myself in jail back in 1984 for, I don't know, I guess you'd call it growing to endanger or something similar. And I was the only person in jail that wasn't there for alcohol violations, but aside from that irony, it was, it kind of forced me to think about things and wonder exactly what they were hoping to gain by putting someone like myself in jail. And when thinking about these things, I've realized that although people try to minimize the impact that this war on marijuana has been having, it's really a very serious issue. There's millions of people who find themselves in the same situation as I did, that suddenly find themselves arrested and hauled off to jail in some cases. And I didn't suffer particularly. It was a nice little county jail, and with some pretty nice fellows in there, but that's not the case for everyone. So, yeah, I think it's a very important issue, and I wonder why, after all these years of arresting people and spending all these hundreds of billions of dollars, and everything seems to be getting worse in terms of the drug consumption in America. I mean, why no one is discussing this issue? Where are our political leaders? Why isn't somebody saying, well, this is not working, maybe we should try something different?
Well, it seems like there's been some movement in the state of Maine. You got medical marijuana in 1999, and recently both Portland and South Portland have voted for marijuana legalization. Do you think your fellow Mainers are ready to move forward with legalization statewide in 2016?
I think we'll find out in 2016, and I have a feel. I think the chances are pretty good that it would pass if it was on the ballot, and I think it will be on the ballot. Right now, we're in this kind of legal limbo where you can grow medical marijuana, but of course that leaves you in certain jeopardy of federal law, and it's just very confusing. I don't know what people do for their taxes if they're making a living growing medical marijuana and selling it to the dispensaries. So it would be nice just to simplify things and legalize it like Colorado and Washington are doing, and see how that goes. But I think to answer your question, yeah, I think the people of Maine have seen this thing sort of going along for all these years, and the law enforcement has become almost non-existent in terms of marijuana. In fact, one of the biggest stories on the news this past year was some guy was growing medical marijuana, and some fellas showed up dressed as policemen and stole his crop.
Oh.
And the police were very conscientious in tracking these guys down and arresting them. And I don't know if they returned the guy's crop to him or not, but people being arrested for marijuana is almost you never hear of it anymore. So
yeah.
We are moving in the right direction.
That's
it's
great.
It's nice to simplify things and clarify things.
I agree. That's great news. And folks, we're talking about the book Hard Chance, Tree Farming in Troubled Times by Peter Pfeiffer. It's a series of essays and kind of a memoir, if you will, of your experiences. And it describes here how after the Vietnam War, you were, a pretty angry young man and maybe even potentially wanting to get more radicalized, but that the forests of Maine and the act of forestry there actually calmed you down. I found that kind of, revealing. I mean, of course, nature has that ability to soothe people in certain ways, but also, isn't forestry one of the most dangerous occupations out there as far as, risks to life and limb?
Yeah, it's right up there with fishing and farming. And yeah, you have to be careful. But at the same time, it's nice to be independent, to go out and have your own job and to earn your living from the land. And yeah, the 60s and into the 70s was a very, very turbulent time, and the war in Vietnam, I still believe, was a colossal mistake, and I think we lost, and we could have just skipped the whole thing, and I don't think anything would have been different. And now I sort of feel the same way about the war on drugs, that we're losing that, and we're, you have to, I'm not quite as, I'm not about to take to the streets the way we were during the Vietnam era, but back then it just was really great to return home to Maine and just move back into the woods and find myself in the company of a lot of like-minded people, pacifist type of people who just wanted to get out of the tumult and out of the traffic of what was going on in those days, and to find a nice job that made sense, an honorable job. And so, yeah, it did settle me down quite a bit. You wouldn't think that running a chainsaw would settle you down, but in my case, it did.
Well, that's good. Now, one aspect of the marijuana community that seems to run through most of us is an appreciation for nature and the need for sustainability. A lot of the folks that we talk to in the industrial hemp movement, for example, talk about sustainability. As someone who's an independent forester, what would you like to tell people about the need to care for the forests and maybe some suggestions as to how we could make our planet a little better place?
Well, certainly, from what I know about hemp, which, I've only read the literature and read the books on the subject and followed the history of it. I've never grown it or processed it, but it appears that you could make a lot of things out of hemp that we now are making out of wood.
Do you think that's a concern for the forestry industry, that maybe there's a competition there?
No, I don't, because, we have an enormous population of people that needs an enormous number of things. So, there's plenty of uses to put wood to, besides waste paper. And so, we can use the forest for heat and for lumber and for a lot of other products. So hemp is fine. I have no problem with that, and it'd be nice to have some small farms and processing plants. That would be a whole other industry. And of course, I've always been, the whole point of tree farming is to harvest wood sustainably. I've been working on my own wood lot here for over 40 years. It's only 100 acres, but I've been, getting a good crop every year for all that time. And and I think if we just approach the wood harvesting in a little bit more long-sighted terms, and I think it would be to everyone's advantage, certainly to future generations.
Absolutely. We're speaking with Peter Pfeiffer. He's a independent tree farmer in Maine. The book is called Hard Chance, Tree Farming in Troubled Times. And the book also mentions that you're a playwright. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say I am a playwright. I was a playwright for the In Spite of Life Players. And that was one of the joys of coming back to this neighborhood, is we had quite a few people with a lot of ideas here, really playful people. And so before we knew it, we had to form a theater group in order to express all these ideas and put them on stage and get them off our chests before they... So we started this group and ended up calling it the In Spite of Life Players for various reasons that are explained in the book. And we put it on outdoor plays on the 4th of July in this giant gravel pit, which were pretty hilarious. It was a huge parade, and then we put on these funny plays.
Wow. It sounds like you've lived a very varied life, and a lot of people can learn all about it in this book, Hard Chance, Tree Farming in Troubled Times. We've got about 30 seconds. Can you give people any internet addresses, Facebooks, or anything like that if they want to get in touch with you or get a hold of your book?
Well, they can buy it on Amazon or from their local bookstore. I'm not on Facebook or anything. I'm afraid I'm kind of old-fashioned in that regard.
Hey, you're probably a lot more peaceful for it. I got to tell you, as somebody who's connected to everything, I kind of have some envy for those of you that aren't on all these things. Peter Pfeiffer, author of Hard Chance, Tree Farming in Troubled Times. Thanks for joining us in Reformer's Reader here on the Russ Belville Show.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, and good luck on the book.
Okay. Good night now.
All right. When we come back, we'll have time for a radical rant. A very important announcement coming to you from Portland, Oregon. I've been teasing it for weeks. You'll be the first to know. I promised you that. So stay tuned.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.